What's up, everybody? I'm David Hain. Welcome to episode 57 of the A to D from Addict to Disciple podcast. If you would like one-on-one counseling or to launch or join a group using the podcasts or the From Ashes to Destiny curriculum, please send me a message by email at davidfromatod@gmail.com or go to my website www.fromatod.org and click on the contact page. When we come back, we'll get into this episode entitled Crossing Over from Experimentation to Addiction. Welcome back to episode 57 of the A to D from Addict to Disciple podcast entitled Crossing Over from Experimentation to Addiction. In today's episode, we'll have our second group session. If you missed the first one, it was episode 55. Check it out. I'm honored to have the same 8 friends in recovery from the U.S., England, South Africa, and Australia sharing their hurts, their hearts, and their hopes in this episode. As before, I'll be keeping them anonymous, but I'll be saying their answers as if we were having a group meeting. Okay, guys, here's your questions for today. Can you remember that moment when you passed from experimental or casual use to full-on addiction? What were your thoughts or emotions that led you into addiction rather than asking for help while it was still early? Harry, you want to get us started? Sure, David. My passover from experimental to full-on addiction happened in my teenage years, whereby the drugs and alcohol made me feel better and took away my hurt and pain. I came from an abusive household, so both my parents were also full-on addicts, and coming home sober for me was difficult to deal with. When I came home high or intoxicated, all my hurt and fear disappeared, and I had the courage to go home and challenge my parents, and sometimes leading to full-on fistfights. I loved the way the drugs and alcohol made me feel. The more I consumed, the happier I became. I lived a fantasy life full of lies to cover up my addiction, as I didn't want to change, and became the life of the party. A happy chappy, so to speak. Eddie, I see you smiling over there. Are you relating to that? Yes, David, but it's very difficult to remember when the actual crossing over took place. At the beginning, you tell yourself it's only recreational. Then all of a sudden you're waking up and scratching the dry cocaine from your nostrils to have one last line. Or you're picking up crumbs to try and gather your last hit from a long finished rock. Or searching the house frantically, losing your mind trying to find a hidden foil package of heroin you might have stashed during your wild binge. You can never say when the crossover happened. It just did. And in all that time, you keep comforting yourself that you're fine, you got this. That's right, I'm not an addict. You can feel the slide, your hands struggling to grasp. Hold on to anything on the way down, just to soften the blow. Because as much as you're aware of the dangers and the end result and the hurt and pain you caused, you are too far gone to even begin to think of stopping the fall. The fall is part of the high. So, no, I got this. I'm good. There's nothing wrong. I can quit whenever I want. These are the lies you tell yourself as it gets darker and darker and darker. Charlie, how about you in that crossing over time? Well, for me, there was a moment. One more fight with my mom. A fight after a life of fighting for her love, for her well-being, and to just be happy together. But this time I had it. I didn't care about anything anymore. I was tired of crying, tired of hurting. I felt like no matter what I tried, it wasn't going to be good enough. I did care what happened to me, and I went for the hard stuff and never looked back until my mom died. Then I looked for more and more to kill the pain, and then to kill me. I had no idea to ask for help. Drinking was the way of life and accepted by everyone in the family. And when people did care, I was too smashed to pay them any mind or remember. To this day, I still struggle to ask for help. I was on my own from such a young age that I trusted no one and felt I could do anything I wanted to do. My father was my party buddy. So when the ones who were there to help you are helping you get wasted, it seemed just fine. The emotions that led me to addiction were fear. Fear of being alone, fear of dying, fear of another trauma. I feel trauma was my first addiction. It started from day one of my birth and just kept happening over and over. At the fighting, the blood spilled, the homelessness, being abandoned by my mom and dad, almost never feeling at home, the shame and guilt of feeling like it was my fault my mom got beat or wasn't happy. I guess I just didn't want to feel anymore because I really didn't want to drink or drug. I thought I was going to be the one who changed how my family lived. But once I put that stuff in my body, I could never stop until it was all gone. I've found God now. I have the chance to break these generational chains of addiction and darkness. I'm seeing a common thread here that our childhood and our family really laid some pain in there that led to that slide out of our grasp. Gary, what do you say? Well, my full-on addiction started on the 7th of February 2014, when my wife of 20 years died suddenly in my arms from a previously misdiagnosed illness. There are frankly no words to accurately describe my sense of loss and pain. I did attend church services afterwards, but received no support from them. Only whiskey, which I used recreationally before, provided me with comfort and numbed the intense pain I felt. Frank, you seem stirred over there. What's going on in your mind? David, I find this extremely hard to put into words or relive these feelings. A number of years ago, I was part of a group of friends that were very dear to me. We had great times and adventures, many things in common. We would meet every day and go out for drives or food, wherever the wind took us, really. On occasion, we would go out for a night and have a few drinks, or perhaps go on a hike and smoke a joint. I felt there was no harm. As time went on, arguments happened amongst us. People were taking sides. It wasn't nice. And me being me, I put myself in the middle to try and ease the situation, to find some level ground between everyone. Instead, all of their hate was aimed at me, even to the point that they involved the police to incriminate me. They turned the police on me, and the police dug and scoured with a fine-tooth comb. I ended up losing my car, my license, as well as receiving a hefty fine. This is when I locked myself away and drink and drugs became my escape, which eventually turned into addiction just so easily. Wow. It's tough living with that betrayal of friendship like that and feeling you have to isolate to just be safe. Dante, how about you? I was around 12 to 13 years old. I remember simply being captivated. You're turning into a man slowly, and new feelings and bodily processes start to reveal themselves. And that feeling had me hook, line, and sinker. I wanted porn as much and as often as possible. I think I was in such a place of insecurity and hurt. Turning to it gave immediate satisfaction. Delving into pornography amplifies your insecurities. It opens up a wound and just drives them deeper. I felt ashamed by it, but it was so captivating, there was no way I was not going to do it. Ben, you're over there shaking your head like you can fully identify with what's going on here. Yeah, man, this is a great and interesting question and group we're having today. I think of how I went from certain drugs, for lack of a better ways of describing it, graduating to other drugs, like moving from pills to heroin. But the memory of crossing over from just experimental or casual use to, hey, I need this, happened about 22 years of age when I discovered OxyContin. I remember thinking, wow, I feel so amazingly numb. But the withdrawals the next day were so horrendous that I went from, hey, I think I'll have a couple Lortabs, to I have to have more Oxy. It became an absolute necessity, even if I had to do things I wasn't proud of to keep getting it. And that second part you asked in the question, that's the one that's really haunting me. I think of all the opportunities I had to get help and all the people who were willing to bend over backwards to help me. But when I look back, it was almost like I was in some kind of hypnotized trance. I was just headlong after the stuff. I don't remember many times thinking, hey, I really need to get help. I really need to stop this. It was like I was in a trance of going to the next hit, to the next hit, to the next hit. Even when I was rock bottom at times, I just thought, okay, I've got to do something to get money to get some drugs. There was no thought of, well, I'm broke and I don't have any dope, I might as well just try to get clean. It was get the drugs at all cost, no matter what. Adam, haven't heard from you yet. Would you like to close out this session for us? Sure, David. I was 15 and I went from trying alcohol to hating alcohol to trying pot and loving it. My first foster dad turned me on to pot. Then he turned me on to popping pills. I played sports and suffered from some disorders from birth, so I always had pain meds. I also took ADHD meds, and from the age of 15 to now, I have never taken ADHD meds. They would make me too calm, so I stuck with the pain pills. My foster dad taught me to sniff them. Then that was the point of, hey, I like this a lot. So within a year of, say, age 15 to 16, I began abusing my meds horribly. At the age of 16 is when I developed a full-on addiction. My biological mom showed me how to shoot pills. I started with Oxy 80 milligrams. Then after that day, I was shooting 5 pills a day. That lasted for about 6 months. At that time, I was introduced to heroin. It took 4 bags to have me in a downward spiral that was toxic to everyone I came in contact with. My thought was, never I'm an addict. I felt like I can stop for a day and I'm okay. Or I work, pay my bills, and still get high, so I'm not an addict. I never asked for help because the pain I hid inside of me and the love I got from others when I got high was enough to fill in the gaps. My feelings were pain, pity, and anger. I loved the feelings the drugs gave me. Even if it was short-lived, I loved it so much. Wow, thank you guys for sharing such depth like that. And Adam, if I can come back to you, we spoke a couple of times this week, and I'd just like you to share with our listeners what you were talking about, how your week has been. Okay, David. It's a constant battle every day. I've been in and out of treatment centers the past 9 months, and it's the same thing. I meet men and women with the most amazing hearts and souls that are constantly haunted from their past. I was one of those people. I turned to Jesus, and I had to put my trust and faith in him. I'm at peace with my past. I did some amazing healing at some great places. I have healed that pain with the love from Jesus and from my family and friends, mostly Jesus. This week alone, I have lost 2 great friends in my life, men who carried so much pain and hurt. On the outside, they were so beautiful and looked perfect, but on the inside, they're battling a beast that's so powerful and causes nothing but pain and destruction. The first guy looked so amazing and talked so amazing and was so about his recovery. I begged him not to return to Pittsburgh, but he did. He only made it 4 days. The second man was the same, although he was dealing with some legal issues and family issues on top of his recovery and his past. He made it 6 hours after leaving. I'm so heartbroken to see so many friends die. From 2012 until now, I have lost 153 friends to addiction. We have to stand up, take charge, and help. It starts with a simple, "Hi, how are you doing today?" Or, "Hey, you okay?" Or, "Want to talk? Let's set up a judgment-free zone and just have a great conversation." I think it's all about showering them with love and care. Thanks for listening to this episode of the A to D From Addict to Disciple podcast. If you enjoy these podcasts, share the link with your friends and contacts around the world. If you'd like to support our work with people caught in the snare of addiction, homelessness, or incarceration, click on the support link of this episode's description. Your donation of any amount could change a life. And if you're feeling touched by the comments of any of the guys in this group, feel free to send me a message, mention the name of the guy that has touched you and how it touched you, and I'll be sure to pass it along to them. So tune in next Monday for our next episode, and as always, stay safe and stay strong.